Howdy, howdy. We're back at it again. So, the first thing in part one we're going to see is to George Washington, the President of the United States of America. So, we see, Sir, I present you a small treatise in defense to those principles of freedom which your exemplary virtue hath so eminently contributed to establish, that the rights of man may become as universal as your benevolence can wish, and that you may enjoy the happiness of seeing the new world regenerate the old, is the prayer of, Sir, your much obliged and obedient humble servant, Thomas Paine. So he dedicated this book to him, and he sent him. So, he's writing his own preface, which we don't see all the time, so this is cool. Preface to the English edition. From the part Mr. Burke took in the American Revolution, it was natural that I should consider him a friend to mankind, and our acquaintance commenced on that ground. It would have been more agreeable to me to have had cause to continue in that opinion than to change it. So he's saying that Mr. Burke, he had a good part in the American Revolution. I thought he was a good person. I wish I didn't have to change my opinion. At the time Mr. Burke made his violent speech last winter in the English Parliament against the French Revolution and the National Assembly, I was in Paris and had written him but a short time before to inform him how prosperously matters were going on. Soon after this, I saw his advertisement of the pamphlet he intended to publish. As the attack was to be made in a language but little studied and less understood in France, and as everything suffers by translation, I promised some of the friends of the Revolution in that country that whenever Mr. Burke's pamphlet came forth, I would answer it. This appeared to me the more necessary to be done when I saw the flagrant misrepresentations which Mr. Burke's pamphlet contains, and that while it is an outrageous abuse on the French Revolution and the principles of liberty, it is an imposition on the rest of the world. I am the more astonished and disappointed at this conduct of Mr. Burke, as from the circumstances I am going to mention, I had formed other expectations. I had seen enough of the miseries of war to wish it might never more have existence in the world, and that some other mode might be found out to settle the differences that should occasionally arise in the neighborhood of nations. This certainly might be done if courts were disposed to set honestly about it, or if the countries were enlightened enough not to be made the dupes of the courts. The people of America have been bred up in the same prejudices against France, which at that time characterized the people of England, but experience and the acquaintance with the French nation have most effectually shown to the Americans the falsehood of those prejudices, and I do not believe that a more cordial and confidential intercourse exists between any two countries than between America and France. When I came to France in the spring of 1787, the Archbishop of Toulouse was then minister, and at the time highly esteemed. I became much acquaintance with the private secretary of that minister, a man of an enlarged benevolent heart, and found that his sentiments and my own perfectly agreed with respect to the madness of war and the wretched impolicy of two nations, like England and France, continually worrying each other, and to no other end than that of a mutual increase of burdens and taxes. That I might be assured I had not misunderstood him, nor he me, I put the substance of our opinions into writing and sent it to him, subjoining a request that I should see among the people of England any disposition to cultivate a better understanding between the two nations than had hitherto prevailed, how far I might be authorized to say that the same disposition prevailed on the part of France. So he's saying, if I was to put out in writing that do the people in England want to cultivate a better relationship with France, would France agree with this disposition? And he was like, He answered me by letter in the most unreserved manner, and that not for himself only, but for the minister with whose knowledge the letter was declared to be written. What? I put this letter into the hands of Mr. Burke almost 3 years ago, and left it with him, where it still remains, hoping, and at the same time naturally expecting, from the opinion I had conceived of him, that he would find some opportunity of making a good use of it, for the purpose of removing those errors and prejudices which two neighboring nations, from want of knowing each other, have entertained, to the injury of both. I need to pop my neck. I'm going to see a chiropractor. When the French Revolution broke out, it certainly afforded to Mr. Burke an opportunity of doing some good. He had been disposed to it, instead of which, no sooner did he see the old prejudices wearing away than he immediately began sowing the seeds of a new inveteracy, as if he were afraid that England and France would cease to be enemies. That there are men in all countries who get their living by war, and by keeping up the quarrels of nations, is as shocking as it is true. But when those who are concerned in the government of a country make it their study to sow discord and cultivate prejudices between nations, it becomes the more unpardonable. With respect to a paragraph in this work alluding to Mr. Burke's having a pension, the report has been some time in circulation, at least 2 months, and as a person is often the last to hear what concerns him, the most to know, I have mentioned it, that Mr. Burke may have an opportunity of contradicting the rumor if he thinks proper. So, he's saying here that he gave him this letter from the minister saying that France is like, yeah, we could be friends. And he's like, look, if you're a fan of the American Revolution, you'll see that France is pretty cool. And maybe that will tear away at these prejudices you've built up over your life, and you'll be like, yo, me and France just don't know each other. America and France just don't know each other. They could be the best of friends and live in kumbaya. And dude was like, no, we're going to make France even worse. We're going to keep them as enemies. And dude's like, dude, meaning Thomas Paine, is saying, would you know it? Some people make their living from sowing discord between nations, and they profit heavily off of war. Well, rumor has it that one such of these pensions may be in the name of Mr. Burke. So I'm going to mention this rumor. Do you get pensions do you profit off of war, Mr. Burke? I'm going to mention it. So you can come over here and contradict that rumor if you think it proper. A little bit catty. All right. So I think those are pretty good because that gives us the preface, and we'll say that her letter and preface. I can even retitle it, and make it super neat and cute. But that's kind of good. I think we can stop there and start a new